Hello, everybody a musician? Yeah. All musicians? Who plays the bass? Who plays the drums? Piano? Lead piano? And the saxophone? No saxophone. Guitar? There it is. 1 second.
You are the best!
This is all right. Any other questions? Anything I can answer? Yes.
About your origin, according to the legend I read somewhere in the web, you started as a clarinet player, playing clarinet, and then you switched to bass because the competition in New York was so high for clarinet that you decided to try something different. Is it true, or is it just a legend?
I did start, my father plays the piano, so when I was 3 years old, I was imitating my father, you know. I was putting on his glasses, banging on the piano. But at the age of 10, yes, I started the clarinet, and I played the clarinet, but I wanted to play funk music, R&B, soul music, and there's no clarinet in R&B and soul music. So at the age of 13, I was playing, first I started playing saxophone, and then the organ, but then I played the bass. I said, nah, this is cool. This is cool. So it wasn't about competition. I was too young, you know. I just wanted to play, you know, funky music. Now, I stayed with the clarinet all the way through the university. I was about to go to a special music college in New York for clarinet. And that's when I said to myself, what is my opportunity on the clarinet, right? I have a big afro, you know what I mean? Am I really going to play in the symphony orchestra with the afro? I'm not sure, you know? You're looking at the symphony and all you can see is the afro, you know? So, and also I was beginning to have so many opportunities on the bass guitar that I decided at that point that I was going to go in the direction of the bass guitar. After about 7 years as a professional, I was working with Miles Davis, and I was looking for another sound, something different, because when you work with Miles Davis, you're always looking for something different, you know? And I said, you know, I still feel my fingers moving to the clarinet, you know? Maybe a bass clarinet, maybe that would be cool. And my wife heard me say this, and for Christmas, under the Christmas tree, was a bass clarinet. She found one for me. And so all Christmas Day, I'm playing the bass clarinet. It sounded horrible, very bad, but I kept practicing. And it became like my second voice. So now I feel very comfortable that I still have clarinet opportunities, but also my bass guitar. Is that okay?
Thanks so much.
What else? It's difficult, right? What else can I tell you? I met Miles Davis when I was 21 years old. Miles Davis went into retirement. You know retirement? He wasn't playing at all. For 5 or 6 years, he stopped playing. He just stayed in his house in the darkness. And we don't know what he was doing. But in 1981, he decided to come out of retirement. And he put together a band of young musicians. And he asked people, who's a young, funky bass player in New York? And somebody recommended that he call me. So I don't know. All I know is I get a message, call Miles Davis. Because he had been in retirement, so I didn't even know, you know, where he was. I didn't know if he was still playing music. And he asked me to go to a recording session. And in 2 hours, can you be at Columbia recording in 2 hours? I said, okay. And I met him that day, that evening, and we did a few recording sessions, maybe 3 days, and he asked me to be in his band. and that's how I met him. He was, I thought he was going to be like this tall. He was like this, you know, but his music was like this. And it was an unbelievable experience. You know, when you're young, you guys are young, you don't realize, sometimes something happens to you and you go, okay, yes, that's nice. You don't realize that you will be talking about it for the rest of your life. You know, you never know when something important is going to happen to you. But it was good for me. It was good for my confidence, because Miles said he liked what I was doing. So when Miles says he likes what you're doing, you stop worrying, right? And you start to concentrate on music. So that was really good for me. After a few years, I began to write music for Miles Davis. And that was a really beautiful opportunity for me, you know, because, you know, when you write music, can you imagine you're writing music and you're saying to yourself, Miles is going to play this. It makes you write better, right? You concentrate because you can hear, you can imagine how beautiful it's going to be. So it was very important for me. A lot of people became aware of me because of my relationship with Miles Davis. A lot of people ask me, do you get tired of talking about Miles Davis? Because there are musicians who don't like, who play with Miles. There are musicians who play with Miles who don't like so much to talk about, because they say, I have a very full life, and Miles Davis was just a part of my life. But for me, I don't mind. You know, he was very important to me. He was, when I was 21, he was 55 or 56, so he's kind of like a father, you know what I mean? He was very supportive. He encouraged me. Continue to write. Continue, Marcus. Continue to write. It's very important, you know? And Miles Davis, most people know him as a very hard, you know, not so nice guy. But for me, he was beautiful, so I don't mind talking about him. You know, it's a very beautiful part of my life.
Oh, aspetta, ti do il microfono.
What is your favorite thing that you did with Miles?
My
Was
favorite-
live or recording?
Oh, my favorite recording?
Or live band or live playing? Or
There was a TV show. It was called Night Music. And I was the musical director of the show. And they said, can you get Miles Davis to be a guest on the show? So I called Miles, and he said yes, he would come on the show. And before we played, I was the interviewer. You know, I was asking him questions like TV, you know? Hey, Miles, you know, blah, 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 you know? And no one ever got to really talk to Miles. Nobody got to hear him like that. So I was always nervous that he wasn't going to answer me, you know? Because it was on television, it would have been very embarrassing if he didn't answer me. But he answered all my questions, and we had fun. It's on YouTube. You can see, you know, when I interviewed Miles Davis, I had an afro with a flat top. But I like an album that we did called Siesta. Very nice album with a Spanish flavor. I love Tutu. That's probably the most important thing. Where is it?
the thesis.
Oh, okay. Oh, in here?
Yeah.
It's in my story here. Tutu is very important, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't just playing the bass, I wrote the music, I played all the instruments, and it was for Miles, and also it was for Desmond Tutu. It was a dedication to Desmond Tutu, and he was fighting against apartheid in South Africa. So we were supporting something very important to me, so the whole combination, you know, my opportunity, Miles, the situation in South Africa, and the success of Tutu, it was a really beautiful experience.
Hi.
Hi.
The question here is, were you scared the first time you played in front of Miles Davis? I mean, in terms of judgment and stuff.
It was that day that he called me to come to the studio. You know, I got there and I was the first one there, and then Miles came. And he said, this is how the song goes. And he went, boom, boom. Got it? I said, that's it? He said, what, you don't like it? I said, no, I love it. I love it. You know, F sharp G, okay. band came and we began to play. And you know, I was like, boom, 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 boom. And then he stopped the band. He said to me, "Is that all you're going to do?" And I said, oh, okay, I understand now. It's just the beginning, okay. So the second take, boom, boom, he stopped again. "What are you doing?" "Just play F sharp and G and nothing else." Right? So I realized he's playing a game. You know what I mean? This is a big test for me. So I just closed my eyes for the third take and just played. Boom, 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 boom. And he didn't stop this time because it was sounding very good, you know, the whole band, you know. And then after the take, after the performance, he said to us, "You guys play like a bunch of girls." And then he walked out of the studio, right? But as he walked past me, he went like that. Gave me a wink. Very good. He was very funny, and I didn't know that. He liked to play games. He liked to tell jokes. You know, not a lot of talking, but little short jokes. You know what I mean? And after a while, I got to appreciate that. You know? So we had a rehearsal the next day at his house. So I went to his house, and after the rehearsal, he told me to stay. So everybody left. It's just me and Miles, and he was making big soup in a big pot, big soup, because he loved to cook food. Right? And he's making the soup, and he's talking to me about music. And you know hot sauce? Hot sauce from the West Indies, Jamaica hot sauce, right? He's talking to me about music, and he's going like this. "Man, you play the F sharp, man. Hold the F sharp." And I'm realizing nobody is in his house except me. So I'm going to have to eat this soup. And of course I couldn't say no to Miles Davis, right? Here, try it. My whole face went. But I tried to be cool, right? Yes, I tried to be cool. It's very, you know, I remember everything now, you know what I mean? At the time I was 21, it's just another moment. But now it's very important. I tell the story all the time, you know. One time we were playing in Paris, and the electricity in the hall went off. No electricity, no microphones, no electric bass, no electric guitar, just Miles with the trumpet, but no microphone, very quiet. And the audience was very quiet, French audience, very respectful. And Miles was playing so quietly. And I'm standing there with electric bass guitar, with nothing, you know. So after a while, I picked up the tenor saxophone, right? And I started playing the bass line on the sax. So Miles, he looks at me, and he walks to me, and he's facing me. And I go, oh, I'm in trouble now. You know? And after a while, he takes the saxophone out of my mouth, and he puts it on the table. Okay, now I feel like a little boy, you know, who did something wrong, so I'm standing there. And then after 3 minutes, he says, aren't you going to play the bass? I say, I can't play the bass. He says, why not? I said, there's no electricity. He said, really? And I said, you didn't notice? You didn't hear that everything got quiet? He said, I thought the band decided that it was time to play quietly. So then he went like this. And he gave me the sax back. So I got to play the saxophone with Miles Davis, you know? And I played all my cool saxophone licks, you know? And, but I'm telling this story so many times that I began to wonder, is this really true? Did this really happen? You know, if you tell a story so many times, 25 years, you start to wonder, am I making this up? So one day, 4 years ago, I was in a small French city called Vienne. And I was walking past a music store, and the music store had jazz photos in the window. And one of the photos was Miles Davis with me, with Michael Jackson hair, right? And a saxophone, right? Because someone had taken a picture of this moment. So I was very happy to realize that it wasn't a dream, that it really happened. You know? I was not happy about the hair, but what can you do? Right? What else can I tell you? Any more questions?
Okay, I just have 2 questions.
Where are you? Hold your hand up.
The first one is why you choose the name Renaissance for your album, and the second one is why you choose to play with such young musicians.
Renaissance is my first studio album in 5 years, right? And after the last album, I said to myself, okay, it's time for something different, you know? I feel like I've made some good albums, but I need something different, a different flavor. But I feel like you can't just decide to make different music. You have to live something differently. So I put myself in different situations. I did a project with the orchestra in the south of France. I did a project with 3 bass players in the same band, with Stanley Clarke and Victor Wooten and myself together. I did a tribute to Miles Davis with Wayne Shorter and Herbie Hancock and myself. And I also did Tutu Revisited, which was where we played the music from Tutu. And after 5 years of doing these different projects, I was inspired to try something different. With Tutu Revisited, this was where we went back and played music from Tutu for a 2-year tour. And I didn't want to just play the music like the album. I wanted to do something different. And I decided to find some young musicians who could give Tutu a different sound, up to date, more contemporary. And I enjoyed playing with the young musicians so much that I decided for my next project, I would write music, new music, for these young musicians, because I was enjoying the sound of the band and the energy and the new feeling. And because it felt so new, I decided to call the album Renaissance, the rebirth, the re-beginning. So, there you go.
Thank you.
Did you guys meet Byron, who's my sound man? He's gone now, but he's very important, you know. He sits at the desk in the back and makes sure that we sound good, you know. And he balances everything and makes sure that this instrument's not too loud, that instrument's not too soft. Very important, the sound man. So when you saw our sound check, I'm asking him, what do you need? What do you need to hear? You know, is the bass okay? Are the horns okay? Because all this stuff here, all these speakers on the floor, they're just for the musicians to hear themselves. What the audience hears comes from these big speakers here, and these speakers are controlled by the sound man. So I didn't know that as a teenager, you know. I thought that you played as loud as you could from the stage so that the audience could hear you. But now I realize you don't have to play so loud because the speakers will project the sound for you. Okay. Another question?
Which are the musicians that influenced you more?
The musicians who influenced me the most were Miles Davis, Stevie Wonder, Herbie Hancock. On the bass, it was James Jamerson. James Jamerson was a bass player from Motown, right? And then I heard Larry Graham, who played bass for Sly and his Family Stone, and he started slapping and plucking, right? Very important. I just did a show with Larry Graham 2 weeks ago because he's still playing great, and it's very funky, like this. James Jamerson, Larry Graham, then Stanley Clarke, all right? And then Jaco Pastorius, very important. After Jaco Pastorius, I decided I'm not listening to any more bass players because I wanted to try to find my own style. I was playing very much like Jaco, I was playing very much like Stanley Clarke and Larry Graham, and I decided I need to try to find my own voice. So I stopped at the age of 17, 18. I don't listen to anybody, you know. And eventually I started to find my own sound. But those guys were very important for me.
Excuse me, I'm here.
Hello.
Hello, hi. I would like to know if there's you can give an advice to someone that would like to become famous, one of these musicians.
Well,
what kind of
I tell you,
advice?
you have to be just practice and live your life. A lot of musicians, they live with their instrument, and their whole life is their instrument, right? So when they wake up, they're thinking about their scales, arpeggios, their instrument, and they practice all day. And that's the level one. You have to do that. But level two is then you have to go live a life so that you have something to play music about, right? You have to fall in love. You have to get your heart broken. You have to see situations that make you angry or make you want to change things. And you combine what you're feeling in your life with your musical information, right? And that's what makes your music interesting. We all hear musicians who never got to level two. Great musicians, right? But when you hear them, what do you say? Wow, he must practice a lot, right? Which is okay, you know? But level two is musicians who are making you feel things, you know? Making you experience emotions. And that is a bigger thing, you know what I mean? So if you're young, put all the time into learning your instrument, try to find your own style, and once you do, then live your life and try to connect the two. It's not easy. And there's no guarantee that you will be famous, because fame is something else. Fame is being fortunate, being lucky. You happen to like things that many people, your musical taste happens to be the same as many people's taste. You can't control that, but you can be the best musician you can be, right?
But you must believe in it.
You have to believe.
Yeah.
You know, to be an artist is about believing in a certain way of making music, right? All the people you admire, they make music from a certain viewpoint, right? For example, young people, they give me their demo CD, right? First song is in the style of Victor Wooten. Second song is in the style of Jaco Pastorius, right? Third one is acoustic bass, straight ahead jazz, right? And I say, you're a very great player, but as an artist, you have to have one point of view. If you listen to Jaco Pastorius, for instance, he plays with the same sound every song, right? He never changed his instrument. Do you know bass players? You say, what kind of bass do you have? I have a Fender Jazz, I have a Music Man, I have blah, blah, blah. They have 5 or 6 basses, right? But all the bass players I admire, they only played one bass. They committed to a certain sound. I have all these basses, but I only play one, really. The one that my mother bought me when I was 17 years old. I still play it. And I committed to that instrument, to the sound, to the things that it does well. I committed to the things that it doesn't do so well, but it became my sound. When you hear it, you go, that's Marcus. Even if you don't like it, you go, yeah, that's Marcus. I don't like it, but it's Marcus, right? Because I'm an artist now. I have a specific point of view. You guys know Pat Metheny? Pat Metheny has a guitar sound, right? Everybody knows the sound, right? His guitar makes other sounds, but he doesn't use it. He committed to one point of view, and he believes in that point of view. So that's the difference between a great musician and an artist. An artist has a singular, a very specific point of view. Right?
Thank you.
How did you build yours? How did you build yours?
How did I build my sound?
Yes.
I told you at the age of 18, I stopped listening to other people, right? And I started putting myself in every situation. I'm from New York, so I was playing with African bands, I was playing salsa, Latino bands, I was playing funk, I was playing traditional jazz, and just trying to find things. And I was recording everything I did. Every time I played, I recorded, and I listened as I'm driving home, listen. oh, that sounded horrible. Oh, that sounded bad. Ooh, that sounded good. You know, let me remember that. And I started building on the things that sounded good about my playing. And after a while, it began to become my style.
Okay, we thank you, Marcus Miller, for his time.